What framing has you captured today? That's a hard question for us to ask ourselves because we have to admit then that we're captured by a frame. And of course we are. We all are. This is our patterns. This is our strategies. This is what comes from trauma. This is the well-worn path that we walk every day. Even if we're chaotic and we say, no, we don't follow patterns. And like I was notoriously late when I was younger. But that was a pattern. It was anarchy. It was chaotic, but it was a pattern. Of course it was. Because we are patterned beings. So we have a path and we tend to walk the path. Before we start getting overly critical and looking at this path and just being like, geez, yeah, I should have done this and I could have done that. And yeah, I would have done this if I had whatever. Let's not just sink in with the judgment straight away. And let's just admit that we're here, we can breathe, we can smile, and our patterns have kept us going to allow us to do that much at least. So that's pretty good. Thank you, patterns. Thank you, strategies, for getting me to here and allowing me this big breath. It's like you worked for a time. You worked in the past. You worked whenever. Most of you still bloody work. Most of you are good. Some of you need a bit of optimization. And some of you patterns, yeah, we could probably do without because you're well outdated. But we have to be kind and we have to be gentle to ourselves because if there's one thing that we hate, just humans hate, it's being told what to do, even when we do it to ourselves. So we'll try not to fall into that trap. The other trap that we might kind of fall into is basically ignoring the parts that don't work and just saying, once I do the morning routine, once I do the cold shower, once I do the exercise, the movement, the socializing, the discipline, the whatever else it is, all these like little bits that we pick up, then I'll get past that pit and I won't have to actually look into it. And sometimes that works. Sometimes there's little patterns and just by doing the morning routine, you break the pattern and it's good. But sometimes if it's a little bit harder, it can kind of manifest a different way, it can change, it can whatever else. So maybe you're building yourself and I'm all for that. If you're of course I'm all for that. It's like, yes, build yourself, do the morning routine, get yourself going, get your up and go for sure. And whatever you're motivated to do, motivation's a weird kind of tricky thing. And we are kind of on about what motivates us here. But you can't really control what motivates you. And if you do, motivation tends to die. So you kind of have to allow stuff to motivate you and then look through that motivation, just being like, this is not coming from the healthiest place. And that's how you'll kind of work with that one. But regardless, what is it exactly that we're looking at here when we're saying like to unlearn some stuff? We're looking at this path. One interesting question is, look at the whole thing. Who put it there? Did someone else put it there or did you put it there? So there's going to be two categories. For other people put it there, that's going to be work, that's going to be just obligations of like family, of whatever else, your clubs, all this sort of stuff. Your clubs you put there. Your work you put there. Your family you put there. You want to do it. So there's no two categories. It's all us. We put it there. Now sometimes there will be demands. Your partner will say like, hey, I need you to do this. I need you to do the dishes. I'll cook, you clean. I'll do this, you do that. And there's negotiation. But again, you're part of that negotiation. So let's not project it all onto the other person because you can't control the other person. So for this, we're just trying to break patterns. And for that, we have to just focus on us. And this can be the real killer. This is the killer, of course it is. Is that we can be right. We can be 95% right. We can be 90% right. We can be 40% right. Doesn't really matter. Part of us is wrong. It's like, yeah, but. And God knows I've fallen into that trap. So let's hold my hands up there on that one. but we'll have to admit that we're a bit wrong as well. In the last couple of months, just to give you a tidbit, a little bit of a side bit, I've been using a crucifix, a cross, not because I'm becoming a born-again Christian or becoming super religious or anything like that, but I'm becoming more interested in the power of symbols. And that symbol of the cross where you carry your burden up to the top of the hill, you expose yourself, you leave yourself vulnerable, you do not curl up and get defensive. Very prolonged, very agonizing sort of exposure and death. And acceptance of the judgment and forgiveness for their judgment, forgiveness for your own judgment, because we are our own best torturer. So what did Jesus say? Like, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. That has rang through my head for the last while. Anyway, but again, allowing the judgment, allowing the death of that part that didn't quite work, and allowing the 3 days of working through it, and then the resurrection, born again, coming back stronger, allowing for that silence in between, allowing for that real grief of letting go of the part of us that we were holding on to. So that symbol, just that, it's really a blueprint for transformation. So I know in today's world, no one likes the Catholic Church, and there's plenty of reasons for that, but just, it's what I'm using. So I said I'd offer it here. If you don't want to use it, fine. But by going through that, you can see the blueprint of transformation. It is to accept the judgment. It is to allow your own, because it's going to be your own judgment every time. It's going to be projected onto other people. It's like, what would they say? What would they think of me? Or whatever else. But they didn't say any of those things because you haven't done it. So it is your projection onto them. And it's not pleasant. It's not nice. It can suck. But sometimes, to get to the next stage, just adding the new bits doesn't quite work. Like, think of physics. We've Newton, who had calculus and gave us so much. And then Einstein came around and was just like, I think you're wrong. And just massive leap forward. And yes, there's a through line through Newton into Einstein. And maybe you can't get to Einstein without Newton. But just that, Einstein didn't come around and just be like, okay, I have to work with this frame and then make everything else work and find a way of fitting. It's like, no, it's like, I think the frame itself is wrong. I think just that is, it's like, I think we just need to pull it apart and put it back together. So maybe you can get an Einstein symbol, and that can be your crucifix. That can be your thing to remember. It's like, that's how it's done. It's like, and sometimes, by the way, let's not torture ourselves. There is shadow work to be done. There is psychoanalysis to be done, going back into childhood, going back into past, going back into how we picked up these patterns and all the rest. There's a scales. We do want to pick up the new stuff. We want to try the morning routine. We want to try I'm doing yoga at the moment. It's great. But we do want to look at what needs to be let go of as well, including maybe some of the morning routines. Maybe I've had to change my breakfast recently because it just wasn't working with the whole thing. So just maybe a scales. Maybe I should get a scales just to remind me of that. But of course there's a balance. There's the yin and yang. There's whatever else. Whatever framing you want to use for understanding this is perfect. But all I would say is be kind, be courageous, and be kind. You're here, you're able to breathe, you're able to smile. That's amazing. Thank you to every pattern that has got you to here, that has allowed you to keep doing that. It's like, we're still going to work on the patterns. We're still going to work on your, I'm going to keep working on me. It's like, so there's grace and there's judgment and then there's transformation. So let's not get caught up in the judgment. Let's not get getting caught up in grace and just ignoring the whole thing, and let's go for the transformation. So I hope this helps. I hope this offers you some sort of insight. Like, try to think of what's capturing you today. Today for me was this video. Everything else, get out of the way. I'm doing this. And I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. It's like, and maybe that does come from other places where you gotta do, and you like, yeah, of course. Again, I can't control my motivation, but I'm going to use it. I like doing the videos. So if I can use it to make a video, it's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. So what's capturing you today? And actually, yeah, if you want to leave that in a comment below, I think that'd be an interesting, or just DM me maybe, but I think that'd be an interesting thread. So guys, if you wouldn't mind, if you could click like, click subscribe, I'd really appreciate that, especially the subscribe one. And I will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye guys.